say that we're all in our spots in our relationship right now because of the decisions that we've already made. And we can be content, content in a way that, we're still looking to do something else, but we're content because we've accomplished something.
In the safety zone.
And we're safe. And Jesus loves us. And so, we're safe. And we cannot compare ourselves to someone else. I did a lot of, when I was younger, comparing myself to a lot of people that had been saved about the same time I was, and they were doing different things than I was, and they were this and they were that, and I wasn't. And so I was in that resigned place a lot when I was younger. And then somewhere in there, God showed me that I was not that person or the other person or this other person, and I was never going to be them. And I would say, well, what about this person? And what about that person? And he would go, one of the things, I was walking down the street one day and I bent over and I picked up this tract, and I was upset because all these people were doing this stuff and I knew I couldn't do that. And I was angry because they were getting away with it and I couldn't. And I bent over and I picked up this tract, and on the front of it, it said, "Others may, you cannot." And I was like, oh, that's so unfair. And he said, you reminded me about Peter saying, well, I'm going to do this, and this is how I'm going to die. What about this guy? And he goes, it's none of your business. And I'm like, and then he said, I made you who you are because I have a plan. I have something in store for you. Are you going to do it? And I'm like, well, if I knew what it was. The thing about asking him, sometimes he answers you.
Yes.
And then you're accountable for that. So don't get caught up in the excuse that I always had, that if I didn't study very much, I wouldn't be accountable for very much. I figured if my relationship with God, I was doing kind of mostly what he said. Because gosh darn, he knew. He made me this way. He knew I couldn't be a public speaker. He knew that. He knew that I didn't talk to people. He knew that. He knew that. He made me that way. And so then he really didn't want me to do this other thing that was back here going, this is what you're supposed to do. And I was like, ugh. A little short side trail. When I was, I'd been saved for 5 years, and God told me to do something, and I was like, It's the first time he gave me a word for somebody, and I just went, So I went home and went, nope. So about a week later, I wrote a note. And then I rewrote it, and I rewrote it, and I rewrote it. And about 2 weeks later, I ran up to this person's house, I threw it on their doorstep, and I left. It was also before I learned about much mercy and grace when you're giving words. Because sometimes God gives you a word because the way you understand it, and if you give it to somebody the way you understand it, it's a little harsh.
It's all
And
messed up.
So then I had to get to the place where I could, have him show me, well, I know I see, just like that, bam, black and white. How do I get this to them without, like my pastor in Salt Lake City said, without blowing them out of the water? And he took me aside one time and said, you really do have things to say, but you need to say it so that you're not blowing people out of the water. And I'm like, wow. And there again, it's like, well, that's the way God gave it to me. So if I can take it, they can take it, But my relationship with him isn't like yours.
That's right.
And I should probably consider how he would give it to you. And so now I'm a little bit better. Most of the time when I talk to somebody, the first time I gave somebody a word, the very first time I actually spoke a word to somebody. We had church services that were like 3-4 hours long, and at the very beginning of worship, he told me, you go tell this person, Jesus loves them. Which started 3 hours of. So I went to that person after it was over and it looked like they were going to bolt out the door, and I went over and I said, my knees were shaking, I thought I was going to throw up, I was starting to cry, and I went over and I said, Jesus loves you, and I ran to the bathroom. Because I was, by that time, sobbing uncontrollably. I don't even know if they understood what I said. But I told them. And so, since then, it's gotten somewhat easier. I don't cry every single time. And I haven't run away recently. But we're all different. And so what he has told me to do, he might not be telling you. You're not Caprice. Jael wasn't Deborah. The 2 midwives weren't Moses' mother. But they all played a huge part in the coming of Jesus. And just because I don't have what Mary, the mother of Jesus, had, doesn't mean I can't be the woman who's nameless in the Bible, who poured the ointment on his head in preparation for his funeral before he even died. But he said that this woman will forever be remembered. So, everybody's got a place and a position, whether you're holding a tent peg or you're holding a horn. You have a place and a ministry.
Amen.
And something to do that will change somebody's life.
That's right.
And if that's the only person you change, it'll be worth it.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Thank you, Lord.
Amen.
Right.